The Narcissist's Playbook. How to Identify and Understand Their Tactics. By Margaret Light. Description: The Narcissist's Playbook. How to Identify and Understand Their Tactics unveils the manipulative strategies used by narcissists to control and deceive their victims. From love bombing to gaslighting, devaluation to hoovering, this guide offers a deep dive into the psychological tactics narcissists employ to gain power and dominance. By understanding these behaviors, readers will learn how to recognize the red flags, protect themselves from emotional harm, and regain control of their lives. This book empowers individuals to break free from narcissistic manipulation, rebuild their self-esteem, and move forward with confidence and clarity in their relationships. Chapter Outline. Introduction. Understanding the Narcissist Playbook. Chapter 1. The Narcissist's Mindset. A glimpse inside the mind of a manipulator. Chapter 2. The Idealization Phase. The False Promise of Love. Chapter 3. The Devaluation Phase. The Shift from Love to Abuse. Chapter 4. The Discard Phase. The Narcissist's Ultimate Betrayal. Chapter 5. Gaslighting, Distorting Reality and Creating Doubt. Chapter 6. The Smear Campaign, Turning Others Against You. Chapter 7. Triangulation, Creating Drama to Control and Manipulate. Chapter 8. Narcissistic Rage, The Explosion of Anger and Retaliation. Chapter 9. Hoovering, How Narcissists Lure You Back into Their Trap. Chapter 10. Breaking Free, How to Protect Yourself and Reclaim Your Power. Conclusion: Empowerment and Moving Forward. Introduction. Understanding the Narcissist Playbook. Narcissism, at its core, is a personality trait defined by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. When taken to an extreme, narcissism can lead to narcissistic personality disorder, a condition that is not only damaging to the individual, but also devastating to those who become entangled in their web. Narcissistic abuse, though often invisible, is one of the most insidious forms of emotional and psychological abuse. It is manipulative, controlling, and designed to tear down the victim's sense of self-worth, leaving them questioning their reality and doubting their own judgment. For many, encountering a narcissist can feel like stepping into a relationship full of contradictions. They may initially be charming, charismatic, and seemingly caring, only to later reveal a darker side, one marked by manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional exploitation. The truth is, narcissists rarely show their true selves right away. They wear a mask, often presenting an image of being perfect, charming, and desirable. Once they have gained the trust or affection of their target, the real play begins, the manipulative tactics they use to maintain control and keep their victim hooked. Understanding the narcissist's playbook is crucial, because it equips you with the tools to recognize these tactics and protect yourself. Narcissistic abuse can leave deep emotional scars. The longer one stays in a relationship with a narcissist, the harder it becomes to break free from the toxic cycle of idealization, devaluation, and discard. Without understanding how narcissists operate, it's easy to fall prey to their tricks, which can range from subtle psychological manipulation to outright emotional cruelty. In this book, you will uncover the various strategies that narcissists employ to gain control over their victims. From the initial love-bombing phase to the cruel devaluation and eventual discard, you will learn how these tactics work to destabilize your sense of self and make it difficult to break free. Narcissists often use tactics like gaslighting, emotional manipulation, triangulation, and smear campaigns to create confusion and keep you in a constant state of doubt and dependency. These behaviors are not random. They are deliberate strategies to break down your autonomy and force you into submission. By understanding these tactics, you will be able to spot the red flags early in any relationship, whether personal or professional, and protect yourself from falling into a narcissist's trap. Identifying narcissistic behavior is the first and most important step in reclaiming your power. Recognizing the signs and understanding the manipulative techniques that narcissists use allows you to disengage from the toxic dynamic before it causes irreversible harm. Knowledge is your first line of defense. This book is not just about recognizing narcissistic behaviors, it is about giving you the power to break free from their grasp. You will learn how to set healthy boundaries, regain your self-worth, and rebuild your life without the emotional baggage that narcissistic abuse leaves behind. More importantly, you will gain insight into why you may have been targeted by a narcissist in the first place, and how to protect yourself from future encounters. Whether you're currently in a relationship with a narcissist or have already left, this book will guide you through the process of healing and empowerment. Each chapter will delve into a different manipulation tactic commonly used by narcissists, explaining not only how they work, but also how you can identify and neutralize them. From the early stages of idealization, where everything seems perfect, to the harrowing moments of devaluation and eventual discard, you will gain a clear understanding of how narcissists gain control and how to protect yourself from their games. You will also learn the importance of self-awareness, emotional resilience, and the necessity of support networks as you navigate through and eventually break free from narcissistic influence. This journey is about more than just surviving, it's about thriving and reclaiming the life that was almost stolen from you. By understanding the narcissist's playbook, you are empowering yourself to live authentically and free from the toxic patterns that once held you captive. In the pages that follow, you will discover how to protect your emotional and mental well-being, how to regain your confidence and self-respect, and how to move forward in life with a sense of peace, purpose, and strength. Your awareness is your power. Understanding the narcissist's tactics is the first step in the process of healing, and this book will walk you through that journey. It will offer you not only a roadmap to freedom, but also the emotional tools to build a future where you can live without fear, manipulation, or control. This is your path to empowerment, and it begins with understanding the playbook of those who would seek to tear you down. With this knowledge, you can break free, heal, and reclaim the life you were always meant to live. Chapter 1: The Narcissist's Mindset, a glimpse inside the mind of a manipulator. Narcissism is a term that is often used loosely in everyday conversation, but understanding it on a deeper psychological level reveals a complex, multifaceted personality structure. To truly grasp the dynamics of narcissistic behavior, it is essential to look beyond the surface and explore the core mindset that drives these individuals. Narcissists are not simply self-absorbed or arrogant. Their mindset is a result of deep-rooted insecurities, an insatiable need for validation, and a profound sense of entitlement. These elements form the foundation of their interactions with others and dictate the way they see themselves, as well as how they treat the people around them. At the heart of narcissism is a fragile self-esteem that is often masked by an outward appearance of confidence, success, and superiority. Narcissists have a distorted self-image, which they work tirelessly to protect. Their perception of themselves is inflated, not grounded in reality, and this self-image is a delicate construct that must be constantly fed and reinforced by external sources. Unlike healthy self-esteem, which is internally driven and stable, a narcissist's sense of self-worth is entirely dependent on how others perceive them. They are addicted to admiration and validation from others, and when that validation is lacking, they feel empty and vulnerable. This emptiness is terrifying to them, and in order to avoid confronting this pain, they manipulate their environment to maintain their idealized self-image. The narcissist's need for validation is never-ending. It is not just about receiving praise or admiration, it is about feeling superior to others, about ensuring that their sense of self is constantly bolstered. In many cases, This need for validation is so intense that it becomes an obsession. They may seek out admiration through external achievements, such as career success, material possessions, or physical appearance. Others may turn to more covert forms of manipulation, such as playing the victim, creating drama, or drawing attention to their perceived suffering. No matter the method, the core goal is the same: to receive validation that reassures them of their worth. However, this validation is never enough to fill the deep void they feel inside, and as a result, their need grows more desperate and insatiable. Control is another central theme in the narcissist's mindset. Narcissists crave control because it allows them to maintain their superiority and shield themselves from any perceived threats to their inflated self-image. They view the world and their relationships through a lens of power dynamics, always calculating how they can assert control over others to reaffirm their dominance. This need for control can manifest in various ways, from overt manipulation and coercion to subtle psychological tactics that leave their targets feeling powerless and confused. Whether they are trying to dominate a conversation, manipulate emotions, or dictate the terms of a relationship, the narcissist's ultimate goal is to establish authority over others. Control is not just about power for its own sake. It is a defense mechanism against the vulnerability they feel deep inside. If they can control their environment and the people around them, they believe they can protect themselves from feelings of worthlessness. Superiority is the third cornerstone of the narcissist's mindset. Narcissists view themselves as exceptional, deserving of special treatment and above others. This sense of superiority is not based on any real accomplishments or qualities. Rather, it is a self-constructed narrative that they continuously reinforce. Narcissists often exaggerate their talents, achievements, and experiences, while dismissing or devaluing the accomplishments of others. This belief in their inherent superiority drives their need to seek out and surround themselves with people who either worship them or serve to reflect their greatness. They are often drawn to individuals who admire them unconditionally, or who are easily manipulated into placing them on a pedestal. For the narcissist, being seen as superior is not just a desire, it is an essential part of their identity. They need others to affirm their inflated sense of self in order to feel validated and secure. When they encounter people who challenge their sense of superiority, they may react with hostility, aggression, or disdain. Understanding the mindset of a narcissist requires recognizing that their behavior is driven by deep-seated fears and insecurities. Beneath their arrogance and need for admiration lies a person who is terrified of being exposed as flawed or unworthy. The narcissist's view of themselves is fragile, and they go to great lengths to maintain an illusion of perfection. They fear rejection, criticism, and abandonment, as these experiences threaten to shatter their carefully constructed self-image. To cope with this fear, they manipulate others and distort reality in ways that protect their ego. This is why narcissistic behavior can feel so unpredictable and confusing. The narcissist is constantly shifting between the desire for control, validation, and superiority, while trying to shield themselves from the terrifying prospect of being exposed as inadequate. One of the most insidious aspects of the narcissist's mindset is their lack of empathy. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is a trait that narcissists typically lack or severely distort. This lack of empathy allows them to manipulate and exploit others without remorse or guilt. They see people not as individuals with their own thoughts, feelings, and needs, but as tools to be used to further their own agenda. Narcissists view others as either objects of admiration or as obstacles to be removed. If someone challenges their superiority, they may devalue that person, belittle them, or discard them without hesitation. On the other hand, if someone provides the narcissist with the admiration or validation they crave, They may temporarily elevate that person, only to discard them once their usefulness has expired. This lack of empathy is a key component of their manipulative behavior, and it is what makes narcissistic abuse so damaging. The narcissist does not care about the emotional or psychological well-being of others. Their only concern is how they can use others to bolster their own sense of self. The narcissist's view of others is often distorted. They tend to divide the world into two categories: those who are either useful or non-useful to them. If someone serves their needs or provides them with validation, that person may be seen as a source of narcissistic supply. However, once that person no longer serves a purpose, they are devalued and discarded. The narcissist has little regard for the feelings of others, and may switch from idealization to devaluation without any apparent warning. For the narcissist, relationships are transactional, and emotional bonds are often shallow or self-serving. They may demand loyalty, affection, and admiration, but they rarely reciprocate these feelings in a genuine or meaningful way. Ultimately, the narcissist's mindset is shaped by an internal world filled with insecurity, fear, and a constant need for validation. They are driven by the desire to protect their fragile sense of self and maintain control over their environment. Their behavior is manipulative, exploitative, and devoid of empathy, and they are constantly seeking ways to bolster their own self-esteem at the expense of others. Understanding this mindset is essential for recognizing narcissistic behavior and protecting oneself from the emotional and psychological harm that often accompanies it. The more we understand the core beliefs and motivations that drive a narcissist's actions, the better equipped we are to identify their tactics and protect ourselves from their manipulative influence. Chapter 2: The Idealization Phase, the False Promise of Love. One of the most deceptive and insidious phases in a narcissistic relationship is the idealization phase, often referred to as the love-bombing phase. This is where the narcissist begins their manipulative dance, pulling you in with overwhelming attention, affection, and admiration. To the victim, it can feel like a dream come true, a whirlwind romance where everything seems perfect, where you are made to feel like the most important person in the world. The narcissist in this phase portrays themselves as your ideal partner, showering you with praise, compliments, and gestures that create an illusion of deep emotional connection. What many do not realize at the time, however, is that this intense display of affection is not about love, it is about control. The narcissist's goal during the idealization phase is not to form a genuine, healthy bond, but to entrap you in their web, manipulate your emotions, and secure you as their source of narcissistic supply. At the beginning of a relationship, narcissists can be incredibly charming. They know exactly what to say to make you feel seen, appreciated, and desired. They will mirror your interests, values, and desires, making you feel as though you've met your perfect match. It is not uncommon for narcissists to tell their victim that they have been waiting their whole life to meet someone like them. They will flatter you in ways that feel sincere and genuine, convincing you that they understand you better than anyone else. This is the bait they use to hook you, a carefully crafted persona that aligns with your hopes, dreams, and fantasies. Narcissists are skilled at identifying what you need and want in a partner, and will present themselves as the solution to all of your desires. Whether it's emotional support, admiration, or companionship, they will play the role of the perfect partner, making you believe that you have found the one person who truly gets you. The charm is not accidental. Narcissists are highly attuned to human behavior and have a remarkable ability to read others. This makes them excellent at manipulating emotions and tailoring their approach to each individual. They are masters at appearing selfless, thoughtful, and attentive. They will send flowers, write sweet messages, or even profess deep, intense love early on in the relationship. These gestures feel real, even though they are motivated by a selfish desire to win your affection and secure your loyalty. It is important to note that during this phase, the narcissist may appear to be your ideal partner, but their love is not grounded in genuine care for you as a person. Instead, it is rooted in their need for validation, admiration, and control. Narcissists thrive on attention and admiration, and the idealization phase is when they begin to feed off your emotional responses. The excessive flattery and adoration they provide are not given freely. They are strategically designed to make you feel special and needed. Narcissists often go to great lengths to convince you that they are your soulmate, that no one else could possibly understand or love you the way they do. They will shower you with compliments about your appearance, intellect, personality, and even your kindness or generosity. Every word they speak seems carefully chosen to build you up, creating an emotional dependency on their praise. They understand that when you are made to feel special, you begin to internalize their admiration, believing that this person sees you in a way that no one else does. The narcissist's idealization tactics are powerful because they tap into your deepest emotional needs. When we meet someone who seems to appreciate us in ways that others may not, it can be intoxicating. We feel valued and important. The narcissist, however, exploits this desire for affection and emotional connection. They want you to feel as though you cannot live without their love and attention. The overwhelming admiration they shower on you is designed to make you feel as though you are the center of their world. And for a time you are. But the reason for this is not because of any deep emotional bond or genuine affection. It is because they are in the process of securing you as their primary source of narcissistic supply. Narcissists rely on external validation to maintain their fragile self-esteem. The more you give them praise and admiration, the more they feel bolstered. In return, they continue to provide you with the validation you seek, creating a cycle of mutual reinforcement. The intensity of this phase is often what makes it so difficult to recognize as manipulation. In the beginning, everything feels right. You may feel a sense of euphoria and security, thinking that this person is truly your perfect match. Narcissists are so skilled at making their victims feel cherished that it can be hard to distinguish genuine love from manipulation. This confusion is intentional. The narcissist's tactics are designed to create a sense of emotional intoxication that clouds your judgment and blinds you to red flags. During this time, you may overlook behaviors that might otherwise seem controlling or unhealthy because you are so caught up in the fantasy of an ideal relationship. One of the most important things to recognize during this phase is that narcissists will often accelerate the relationship. They may push for fast intimacy, rushing the progression of the relationship to secure their position. They might speak of future plans, such as moving in together, getting married, or starting a family, even though you've known each other for only a short time. This is part of the love bombing technique. They want you to become emotionally invested as quickly as possible, creating a sense of urgency that can make it difficult for you to take a step back and assess the situation rationally. The faster they can get you attached, the more control they have over your emotions and decisions. The intense pace of the relationship may also prevent you from getting to know the person underneath the mask, making it harder to discern any inconsistencies or warning signs. The narcissist's idealization phase is also marked by a sense of exclusivity. They may isolate you from other relationships, or make you feel as though you should prioritize them above all else. In doing so, they create a dynamic where you rely heavily on them for emotional support, validation, and affirmation. As the relationship becomes more consuming, you may begin to lose touch with your own needs and desires, as the narcissist becomes the focal point of your life. The narcissist's goal is to entrench themselves deeply within your emotional world, so that when the inevitable devaluation phase begins, you will be too emotionally dependent to leave. It's important to remember that while the idealization phase feels like love, it is not real love. Genuine love is based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, but for the narcissist, love is simply a tool for maintaining control and bolstering their self-image. The compliments, affection, and attention that are lavished upon you during this time are not given with any true care for your well-being. They are manipulative tactics that are designed to create an emotional bond that can later be used against you. Understanding this dynamic is crucial to protecting yourself. When you realize that the love you are receiving is not genuine, but a performance designed to secure your emotional investment, you can begin to take steps to protect yourself from further manipulation. The idealization phase is just the beginning of a long and painful cycle. Once the narcissist has you hooked, they will shift the relationship into the devaluation phase, where the very behaviors that once made you feel special will be twisted into tools of control and manipulation. But understanding the love-bombing phase for what it is, the false promise of love, can help you break free from the cycle and begin to heal. The key is to recognize that love, true love, is not about manipulation or control, but about respect, compassion, and mutual understanding. By understanding the narcissist's tactics, you can begin to reclaim your own sense of self-worth and emotional independence, setting the stage for a life that is no longer dominated by the false promises of a narcissist. Chapter 3: The Devaluation Phase, the Shift from Love to Abuse. The devaluation phase is the stark contrast to the idealization stage, marking the beginning of the emotional abuse cycle within narcissistic relationships. This is when the narcissist, having successfully hooked their partner with their charm and idealized version of love, starts to show their true colors. No longer is the partner the center of admiration and affection. They become a target for criticism, manipulation, and emotional neglect. The love bombing that once seemed genuine fades away, replaced by behaviors that erode the partner's sense of self-worth and confidence. What was once perceived as an ideal, flawless relationship begins to show signs of deep dysfunction, and the partner is left wondering what went wrong. The narcissist's need for validation and control is insatiable, and once they feel they have secured their partner's loyalty, they begin to manipulate the relationship to maintain dominance. This shift in behavior is a crucial aspect of the devaluation phase. The narcissist's tactics during this phase are designed to create emotional chaos, to destabilize the partner's sense of reality, and to place them in a constant state of confusion and self-doubt. The partner who was once adored and praised now becomes the target of scorn and disdain. This sudden shift can leave the partner feeling disoriented and powerless, unsure of how they ended up in such a toxic and painful situation. One of the primary tactics used by narcissists during this phase is gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation that causes the victim to question their own reality. The narcissist may deny events that clearly took place, manipulate facts, or twist conversations to make the victim feel as if they are losing their grip on reality. This is done in such a subtle, insidious manner that the victim may begin to doubt their own perceptions, memory, and sanity. Gaslighting creates a sense of confusion that makes it difficult for the victim to trust their own judgment, leaving them reliant on the narcissist for validation. This tactic is designed to destabilize the victim's sense of self, making them more dependent on the narcissist's approval and reinforcing the narcissist's control over them. In addition to gaslighting, narcissists frequently use belittling and demeaning comments to undermine their partner's self-esteem. They may make disparaging remarks about their partner's appearance, intelligence, or abilities, often in the form of backhanded compliments or subtle insults disguised as jokes. The narcissist may say things like, "You're so much smarter than you look," or "If only you were more like," insert a person the narcissist admires. These comments are calculated to make the victim feel insecure, unattractive, and inadequate. Over time, this constant barrage of negative remarks can chip away at the partner's self-esteem, leaving them feeling worthless and undeserving of love. Another tactic employed during the devaluation phase is emotional neglect. Once the narcissist has secured the victim's loyalty and emotional investment, they may withdraw affection and attention. They may ignore their partner's emotional needs, fail to offer comfort when the partner is upset, or dismiss the partner's concerns as unimportant. This neglect can leave the victim feeling abandoned and isolated, as if they no longer matter to the person they once thought of as their perfect match. The narcissist, however, does not feel the same way. Their emotional neglect is a deliberate tactic designed to make the partner feel unworthy of affection, reinforcing the narcissist's belief that they are superior and entitled to control the relationship. The victim's experience during the devaluation phase is marked by deep emotional confusion. Initially, they may still hold on to the hope that things will go back to the way they were during the idealization phase. After all, the narcissist once showered them with affection, and they long for that version of the relationship to return. However, this hope is often fleeting. The narcissist's behavior becomes more unpredictable and cruel, leaving the victim to try to make sense of the constant emotional upheaval. One moment the narcissist may be cold and distant, and the next they may shower the victim with praise and affection once again. This push and pull dynamic creates a state of emotional whiplash, where the victim is left constantly trying to appease the narcissist, hoping to bring back the love and attention they once received. During this phase, the victim may begin to internalize the narcissist's criticisms and question their own worth. The narcissist, having already cultivated a sense of dependency during the idealization phase, now has full control over their partner's self-esteem. The victim may feel trapped, unable to escape the emotional turmoil and confusion. They may feel as though they have no one else to turn to, as the narcissist has likely isolated them from friends and family during the earlier stages of the relationship. The narcissist's devaluation tactics often involve isolating the victim, making them feel as if they have no support system, further increasing their dependency on the narcissist. The emotional toll of the devaluation phase can be overwhelming. Victims often experience feelings of guilt and shame, as the narcissist may accuse them of being the cause of the problems in the relationship. They may be made to feel that they are not doing enough to please the narcissist, or that they are somehow at fault for the narcissist's abusive behavior. The narcissist may claim that if only the victim were more loving, more understanding, or more attentive, things would be better. This manipulation creates a cycle of self-doubt, where the victim continuously questions their actions and tries to change themselves in an attempt to win back the affection they once received. At the same time, the victim may experience emotional withdrawal from the narcissist, as the narcissist's behavior becomes increasingly cold and detached. The narcissist may withhold affection or intimacy as a form of punishment, leaving the victim feeling rejected and unloved. The emotional neglect is often coupled with a sense of powerlessness, as the victim feels as though they cannot fix the relationship or make the narcissist happy. This sense of helplessness can lead to depression, anxiety, and a general sense of despair. The victim may feel as though they are constantly walking on eggshells, afraid of doing or saying the wrong thing that will set off the narcissist's anger or disdain. In some cases, the narcissist may punish their partner by becoming physically or emotionally abusive. The devaluation phase can escalate into outright cruelty, where the narcissist belittles the victim, insults their intelligence, or questions their worth. This can include name-calling, public humiliation, and even physical violence in extreme cases. The narcissist's goal is to break the victim down emotionally, making them feel worthless and incapable of standing up for themselves. This creates a dynamic where the victim feels trapped in the relationship, unable to escape the constant cycle of abuse and manipulation. The victim's confusion and self-doubt during the devaluation phase are exacerbated by the cognitive dissonance they experience. They may find themselves trying to reconcile the loving, idealized partner they once knew with the abusive, cruel person they are now encountering. This internal conflict can make it difficult for the victim to leave the relationship, as they continue to hold on to the hope that the narcissist will change and return to the loving partner they once were. The victim may also feel a sense of loyalty to the narcissist, believing that they are somehow responsible for the narcissist's happiness or well-being. This sense of responsibility can keep the victim stuck in the relationship, even as the narcissist continues to devalue and abuse them. The devaluation phase is a pivotal moment in a narcissistic relationship, where the illusion of love is shattered, and the victim begins to experience the harsh reality of emotional abuse. Understanding the tactics used by the narcissist during this phase, gaslighting, belittling, emotional neglect, and manipulation, can help the victim regain clarity and begin the difficult process of healing. It is important to recognize that the narcissist's behavior is not a reflection of the victim's worth, but rather a manifestation of the narcissist's deep-seated insecurities and need for control. No matter how much the victim may try to change or appease the narcissist, the abuse will continue, as the narcissist's demands are insatiable and their need for control is relentless. Breaking free from the devaluation phase requires strength, self-awareness, and a commitment to one's own emotional well-being. The first step is recognizing that the narcissist's behavior is not your fault, and that you deserve to be treated with respect, love, and dignity. Reclaiming your sense of self and rebuilding your self-esteem will take time, but it is possible to heal from the damage caused by the narcissist's emotional abuse. As difficult as it may be, leaving the relationship is often the only way to break free from the cycle of manipulation and start the journey toward recovery. Chapter 4: The Discard Phase, the Narcissist's Ultimate Betrayal. The discard phase is one of the most devastating and emotionally traumatic stages in a narcissistic relationship. This phase occurs when the narcissist feels that they no longer need or are interested in the victim, often after having used them for their own personal gain. It marks the end of the relationship, but it is not the end of the narcissist's manipulation. The discard is typically abrupt, cold, and callous, and it leaves the victim reeling with feelings of deep betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak. The narcissist, who had once idealized and showered the victim with love, suddenly turns on them, leaving them feeling abandoned, worthless, and deeply confused. It is the ultimate act of emotional cruelty in a relationship with a narcissist. The discard phase can take several forms, but at its core, it is a process of abandonment. The narcissist, having drained the victim emotionally, financially, or physically, decides that the person no longer serves their needs. This can happen when the narcissist finds a new source of validation, attention, or admiration, or simply when they grow bored with the victim and see no further benefit in maintaining the relationship. The victim, who has likely spent months or even years trying to please the narcissist and make the relationship work, is suddenly cast aside with little explanation or empathy. The emotional impact of the discard phase is profound. For the victim, it is not just the end of a relationship, it feels like the end of their entire world. The narcissist's ability to manipulate their emotions and make them feel special and loved makes the sudden rejection feel like a personal attack. The victim often spends a significant amount of time trying to make sense of the situation, questioning what went wrong and why they were suddenly discarded. It is common for the victim to feel like they have been used, and that they were nothing more than a tool for the narcissist to feel validated and important. This feeling of being disposable is one of the most painful aspects of the discard phase. The narcissist has a way of making their victims feel as though they were never truly loved, and that everything about the relationship was a lie. The narcissist's sudden detachment is often accompanied by hoovering, a term used to describe the narcissist's attempts to suck the victim back into their emotional web. Hoovering can take many forms. The narcissist may attempt to reach out with apologies, promises of change, or even acts of kindness. They may send messages, call, or show up unannounced in an attempt to rekindle the relationship. This tactic is designed to pull the victim back into the cycle of abuse and re-establish control. The narcissist might claim that they made a mistake, that they are sorry for their behavior, or that they need the victim back in their life. In some cases, the narcissist might even try to convince the victim that they were the one who caused the breakup, further manipulating them into returning. The victim, who may still be emotionally attached to the narcissist, is often confused by these mixed signals, and may be tempted to forgive and return to the relationship. However, the narcissist's actions are not born of love or genuine remorse. They are simply a means of reclaiming their source of narcissistic supply. The hoovering phase is particularly difficult, because the victim is left in a state of emotional turmoil. They are often caught between the emotional pull of wanting to believe the narcissist's promises and the harsh reality of the emotional abuse they experienced. The narcissist's ability to make the victim feel guilty or responsible for the breakup is a form of manipulation designed to make them second-guess their decision to leave. The victim may feel torn between the desire to regain the love and validation they once felt, and the knowledge that the relationship was ultimately toxic and destructive. The psychological toll of being discarded by a narcissist is profound. After being idealized, loved, and cherished, only to be abandoned with little regard for their feelings, the victim often feels a deep sense of worthlessness and rejection. The narcissist has intentionally cultivated an emotional dependency in the victim, and the discard phase is a calculated attempt to break the victim down and make them feel insignificant. The victim may internalize the narcissist's rejection and blame themselves for the end of the relationship. They may wonder if they did something wrong, or if they could have done more to please the narcissist and prevent the breakup. The victim's self-esteem, which was already fragile from the emotional abuse during the devaluation phase, is now shattered by the abrupt rejection. This sudden sense of abandonment can cause the victim to feel as though they are unworthy of love or affection. The narcissist's behavior reinforces the idea that they were never truly loved or valued, and that they were just a temporary source of supply for the narcissist's insatiable need for admiration and control. The victim may feel as though they have been discarded like trash, left to pick up the pieces of their broken heart, with no closure or understanding of what went wrong. This lack of closure makes it difficult for the victim to process the end of the relationship and move forward, as the narcissist's actions often leave questions unanswered. The emotional confusion caused by the discard phase is further exacerbated by the narcissist's ability to alternate between love and abuse. The victim may have spent months or years trying to figure out the true nature of the relationship, and the sudden shift from love to indifference is disorienting. The victim may struggle to reconcile the love and affection they once received with the cold, dismissive treatment they now endure. The narcissist's ability to detach so quickly and without warning can leave the victim questioning their own worth and wondering what they did wrong. This confusion is compounded by the narcissist's hoovering attempts, which create a false sense of hope and make it difficult for the victim to break free from the emotional hold the narcissist still has on them. The discard phase is not just emotionally painful, it is also psychologically damaging. The victim may experience depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress as a result of the narcissist's sudden and cruel abandonment. The victim may feel as though they are constantly on edge, unable to trust their own emotions or instincts. The narcissist's ability to manipulate and control the victim's feelings creates a cycle of emotional whiplash, leaving the victim in a constant state of distress. The emotional toll of the discard phase can leave the victim feeling mentally and physically exhausted, unsure of how to heal or move forward. One of the most challenging aspects of the discard phase is the sense of powerlessness it creates. The victim may feel as though they have no control over the situation, and that they are at the mercy of the narcissist's whims. The narcissist, having already established dominance in the relationship, leaves the victim feeling weak and vulnerable. The victim may feel as though they are trapped in an emotional prison, unable to escape the narcissist's influence even after the relationship has ended. This sense of powerlessness can make it difficult for the victim to break free from the emotional trauma of the discard phase and begin the process of healing. Despite the overwhelming pain and confusion caused by the discard phase, it is important for the victim to recognize that the narcissist's behavior is not a reflection of their worth. The narcissist's decision to discard the victim is not a judgment of their value as a person. It is simply a reflection of the narcissist's need for control and validation. The victim's healing journey begins with acknowledging that the narcissist's rejection does not define them, and that they are worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Breaking free from the emotional devastation of the discard phase requires time, self-compassion, and a commitment to rebuilding one's sense of self. It is essential for the victim to understand that the narcissist's actions were not about them, but rather about the narcissist's own deep-seated insecurities and emotional dysfunction. Healing involves reconnecting with one's own worth and learning to trust one's instincts and emotions again. While the discard phase may feel like the end of the world, it is in reality the beginning of a new chapter. With time, support, and self-care, the victim can heal from the emotional wounds left by the narcissist's abandonment. The discard phase, though painful, can serve as the catalyst for personal growth and empowerment, as the victim learns to reclaim their sense of self and move forward into a life free from the narcissist's control. Chapter 5: Gaslighting, Distorting Reality and Creating Doubt. Gaslighting is one of the most insidious and damaging tactics a narcissist uses to manipulate and control their victim. This form of emotional abuse gets its name from the 1944 film Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife into believing she is losing her sanity by altering small elements of their environment, and then denying it when she notices. In the context of narcissistic abuse, gaslighting serves as a powerful tool for the narcissist to distort reality and create doubt in their victim's perception of events, leaving them questioning their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. This subtle yet harmful form of psychological manipulation is often used to maintain control over the victim and keep them in a constant state of confusion and self-doubt. At its core, gaslighting is a tactic used by the narcissist to undermine the victim's sense of self and their ability to trust their own perceptions of reality. The narcissist's goal is to make the victim feel like they are crazy or overreacting, and that their version of events is invalid. This manipulation is not always overt. In fact, it is often disguised as concern or care, making it difficult for the victim to recognize that they are being gaslit. Over time, however, the victim begins to lose confidence in their own judgment and becomes increasingly dependent on the narcissist's version of reality. The narcissist, having successfully planted seeds of doubt, then gains greater control over the victim, as they become unsure of themselves and their own perceptions. Gaslighting can take many forms, and it can be difficult to identify, especially when it occurs gradually over time. One of the most common tactics used by narcissists is denial. In situations where the narcissist has said or done something hurtful, they will flatly deny it when confronted. For example, if the victim brings up a hurtful comment the narcissist made, the narcissist might respond by saying, "I never said that," or "You're imagining things." This leaves the victim questioning their own memory and wondering whether they are overreacting or misremembering the situation. Over time, these constant denials erode the victim's confidence in their own recollection of events, creating a sense of cognitive dissonance. Another common form of gaslighting is blaming the victim. In this scenario, the narcissist will turn the tables and make the victim feel responsible for the abuse they are experiencing. For instance, if the narcissist has been emotionally neglectful or hurtful, they may accuse the victim of being overly sensitive or demanding. They may say things like, "You're just too emotional," or "Why do you always blow things out of proportion?" This shifts the focus away from the narcissist's behavior and onto the victim's perceived flaws, further undermining the victim's confidence and self-worth. The victim may begin to doubt whether they are indeed being too sensitive, or whether they are, in fact, overreacting to normal situations. Gaslighting also manifests through contradictory statements. The narcissist may make statements that directly contradict each other, or even contradict previous statements they have made. These inconsistencies can leave the victim confused and unsure of what to believe. For example, the narcissist may tell the victim that they love them one moment, and then the next moment accuse them of being clingy or needy for wanting affection. This conflicting behavior makes it nearly impossible for the victim to get a clear understanding of the relationship or the narcissist's true feelings. The narcissist's inconsistent words and actions create a sense of instability in the victim, further deepening the emotional confusion. One of the most destructive aspects of gaslighting is how it undermines the victim's perception of their own feelings. The narcissist may dismiss or belittle the victim's emotions, making them feel like their emotional responses are invalid or unjustified. For example, if the victim expresses hurt over something the narcissist said or did, the narcissist may respond with statements like, "You're being too sensitive," or "You're just looking for a reason to be upset." This invalidation of the victim's emotions can lead them to question whether they have the right to feel hurt or angry. Over time, the victim may stop trusting their emotional responses altogether, believing that their feelings are wrong or unreasonable. This emotional gaslighting is particularly damaging, as it forces the victim to suppress their emotions in order to avoid conflict or further manipulation. In more extreme cases, the narcissist may employ rewriting history to suit their narrative. They might tell the victim that things never happened the way they remember them, or that the victim is simply misinterpreting events. For instance, the narcissist may tell the victim, "You've always been like this," or "I never did that, you're just imagining it." This rewriting of history is an attempt to invalidate the victim's experiences and memories, leaving them feeling as though their entire reality is distorted. The narcissist's revisionist tactics are designed to keep the victim off balance, making them more vulnerable to further manipulation. One of the most harmful aspects of gaslighting is that it is not just about distorting reality. It is about creating a sense of dependency on the narcissist for validation. As the victim's sense of reality is eroded, they begin to rely more and more on the narcissist for a sense of clarity and validation. The narcissist, of course, thrives on this dependency, as it allows them to maintain control over the victim. The victim, now in a state of emotional turmoil and confusion, feels as though they cannot trust themselves or their own judgment, and so they turn to the narcissist for guidance and reassurance. This creates a dangerous cycle, in which the victim's sense of self becomes increasingly dependent on the narcissist's approval. The emotional and psychological toll of gaslighting can be devastating. Victims of gaslighting often experience anxiety, depression, and self-doubt, as they struggle to make sense of their emotions and perceptions. They may feel trapped in a constant state of confusion, unable to trust their own experiences or feelings. Over time, gaslighting can lead to a loss of self-esteem, as the victim internalizes the narcissist's manipulations and begins to believe that they are crazy or unreasonable. The victim may feel like they are losing control of their own mind, which can lead to a sense of powerlessness and hopelessness. One of the first steps in protecting oneself from gaslighting is learning how to recognize the signs. If you find yourself constantly questioning your own memory, feeling confused after interactions with someone, or doubting your emotional responses, it may be an indication that gaslighting is at play. It is important to trust your instincts, and to recognize that your feelings and perceptions are valid. Keeping a journal of events and emotions can help you document what is happening in the relationship, and provide a record that you can refer to when you begin to doubt yourself. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you separate reality from the manipulations of the narcissist. Another crucial step in protecting yourself from gaslighting is setting boundaries. Narcissists rely on your emotional vulnerability to manipulate you, so it is important to establish clear boundaries in the relationship. This may mean setting limits on the types of conversations you are willing to have, or refusing to engage in discussions where the narcissist is invalidating or manipulating your feelings. By asserting your boundaries, and refusing to allow the narcissist to distort your reality, you begin to take back control of the situation. Finally, it is essential to seek support from others. Victims of gaslighting often feel isolated and alone, but it is important to reach out to trusted friends, family members, or professionals who can offer perspective and help you navigate the emotional confusion caused by gaslighting. Therapy can be particularly helpful in untangling the effects of gaslighting and rebuilding self-esteem. A therapist can help you learn to trust your own perceptions, recognize the signs of manipulation, and develop strategies for healing. Gaslighting is one of the most damaging tools in a narcissist's playbook, as it creates a deep sense of confusion, self-doubt, and dependency in the victim. However, by recognizing the signs of gaslighting, trusting your own experiences, and seeking support, you can begin to break free from its effects and reclaim your sense of self. It is essential to remember that you are not crazy or overreacting. Your feelings and perceptions are valid, and you deserve to be in relationships that respect and honor your reality. Gaslighting may be a powerful manipulation tactic, but it is not invincible. By learning to recognize it, protect yourself and seek help, you can regain your emotional strength and begin the process of healing. Chapter 6: The Smear Campaign, Turning Others Against You. A narcissist's need for control and superiority often leads them to engage in one of their most destructive tactics, the smear campaign. This strategy is designed to turn friends, family, colleagues, and even strangers against their victim, creating isolation and confusion. The narcissist's ability to manipulate others with false narratives is one of the most devastating aspects of narcissistic abuse. Through the smear campaign, the narcissist not only shifts blame but also destroys the victim's reputation, leaving them emotionally and socially vulnerable. Understanding how the smear campaign operates, why narcissists use it, and how to respond can empower victims to regain control of their narrative and protect their mental and emotional well-being. The first thing to understand about the smear campaign is that it is rooted in the narcissist's need to avoid accountability. Narcissists are not only unable to take responsibility for their actions, but they also cannot tolerate being seen in a negative light. Their inflated sense of self-importance and fragile ego require them to maintain a perfect image at all costs. When their true nature is exposed, whether through the victim's testimony, a confrontation, or even just a shift in the dynamic, they often resort to a smear campaign to discredit the victim and protect their public image. In this way, the narcissist seeks to shift attention away from their own flaws and misdeeds, projecting their own faults onto others. The smear campaign often begins after the narcissist has succeeded in manipulating their victim into a state of emotional dependence and vulnerability. Once the victim becomes aware of the abuse and begins to pull away, the narcissist realizes they are losing control and attempts to regain power by destroying the victim's credibility. They do this by spreading false and malicious rumors to anyone who will listen. These can include family members, friends, co-workers, or anyone in the victim's social circle. The narcissist might accuse the victim of being crazy, unstable, or emotionally volatile, traits that are actually projections of their own behavior. The goal is to convince others that the victim is the problem, making it easier for the narcissist to justify their own abusive actions. One of the most painful aspects of the smear campaign is how deeply it affects the victim's relationships. Narcissists are often skilled at playing the role of the victim themselves, manipulating others into feeling sorry for them, and questioning the motives of the actual victim. They may say things like, "I was just trying to help them but they've turned on me," or "I never did anything wrong but they're making me look bad." Through these tactics, the narcissist seeks to create a false narrative in which they are the innocent party, and the victim is the aggressor. The narcissist will twist the truth, taking isolated incidents and exaggerating or distorting them to fit their narrative. The more people the narcissist can convince of their lies, the more isolated the victim becomes. Narcissists often employ a strategy known as triangulation in their smear campaigns. Triangulation involves involving a third party, such as a mutual friend, family member, or colleague, in the conflict in order to manipulate them into taking sides. The narcissist may tell this third party only their side of the story, often omitting crucial details or presenting events in a way that paints the victim in a negative light. They may say things like, "I tried to do everything for them but they just don't appreciate it," or "I'm being attacked for no reason and I don't know what to do." By playing on the sympathies of others and creating division, the narcissist successfully isolates the victim from their support system. The narcissist's ability to manipulate the perceptions of others is not limited to personal relationships. In many cases, they may also attempt to damage the victim's professional reputation. Narcissists often feel threatened by anyone who outshines them, whether at work or in social settings. In the workplace, a narcissist may spread false rumors about the victim's work ethic, reliability, or character. They may claim that the victim is incompetent, lazy, or unprofessional, even if these accusations are completely unfounded. This tactic is used to damage the victim's credibility and prevent them from advancing or succeeding in their career. In doing so, the narcissist feels more secure in their own position, knowing that their victim has been rendered powerless and unable to defend themselves. As the smear campaign intensifies, the victim often begins to experience intense feelings of betrayal, shame, and confusion. It is one thing to endure abuse from a narcissist, but it is another to see others turning against you based on the lies being spread about you. The victim may feel helpless and isolated, as though they are fighting an invisible battle on all fronts. It is common for the victim to begin questioning their own actions and motivations. After all, if so many people are agreeing with the narcissist, how could they be in the right? The narcissist's ability to control the narrative creates a sense of doubt in the victim's mind, making it even harder to see the situation clearly. In order to recover from the damage done by the smear campaign, it is essential for the victim to reclaim their own story. The first step in this process is to acknowledge the narcissist's tactics and understand that the smear campaign is not about truth, it is about control. Narcissists do not care about the facts, they only care about protecting their own image and destroying the victim's reputation in the process. Recognizing that the narcissist is projecting their own flaws onto the victim can help the victim separate themselves from the lies being told. It is important to remember that the smear campaign is a form of emotional manipulation designed to break the victim down and gain power over them. Setting boundaries is an important step in managing the emotional fallout of a smear campaign. Victims should limit their interactions with the narcissist and avoid getting drawn into arguments or debates about the lies being spread. Narcissists thrive on drama and conflict, so engaging with them only feeds into their manipulation. If the narcissist continues to spread rumors or lies, the victim may choose to distance themselves from mutual acquaintances or colleagues who are being influenced by the narcissist's narrative. The victim may also need to address the lies directly with those being manipulated, offering their own side of the story without getting into a defensive or accusatory mode. It is important, however, to do so with caution and to avoid getting caught up in a battle of words with the narcissist. Another essential aspect of reclaiming one's narrative is seeking support from trusted friends, family, or mental health professionals. Narcissistic abuse can create deep emotional wounds, and it is vital for the victim to have a safe space in which they can process their feelings and experiences. A therapist can help the victim rebuild their self-esteem and gain a clearer perspective on the situation. Having supportive people around them can also help the victim regain their sense of self-worth and confidence, which can be severely damaged by the smear campaign. It is also helpful for the victim to document their interactions with the narcissist and any evidence of the smear campaign. Keeping a journal of events, screenshots of messages, or notes about conversations can serve as a record of the narcissist's behavior, which can be useful if the situation escalates or if the victim needs to defend themselves in the future. While documentation may not always prevent the damage caused by the smear campaign, it can provide a sense of empowerment and clarity during an emotionally confusing time. In many cases, the smear campaign will eventually die down as the narcissist moves on to another target or the truth begins to surface. However, the emotional toll of being smeared can be long-lasting. It is crucial for the victim to practice self-care and self-compassion during this process, recognizing that they are not defined by the lies being spread about them. They are not the manipulative, unstable person the narcissist wants others to believe. Instead, they are survivors of a toxic relationship, and they have the power to reclaim their narrative and rebuild their life. The smear campaign is one of the most destructive weapons in a narcissist's arsenal, but it is not insurmountable. By understanding the narcissist's motivations, setting boundaries, seeking support, and staying true to their own story, the victim can begin to heal and regain control of their reputation. Narcissists may be skilled at spreading lies, but they cannot control the victim's truth. With time, resilience, and support, the victim can emerge from the ashes of the smear campaign stronger, wiser, and more self-assured than ever before. Chapter 7: Triangulation: Creating Drama to Control and Manipulate. Triangulation is one of the most insidious tactics employed by narcissists to manipulate those around them. It involves drawing a third party into a conflict or situation in a way that creates drama, tension, and insecurity between the victim and the third party, all while reinforcing the narcissist's sense of control. At its core, triangulation is a form of emotional manipulation designed to destabilize relationships and generate conflict that the narcissist can then exploit for their own benefit. Through triangulation, the narcissist creates an environment where jealousy, confusion, and mistrust flourish, allowing them to maintain power and dominance over the people in their lives. To understand the full impact of triangulation, it is important to recognize how narcissists view relationships and the role they play in them. Narcissists crave attention, admiration, and validation, but they also require control over those around them. In healthy relationships, individuals are able to communicate openly, share their feelings and work through conflicts without fear of manipulation or emotional games. However, narcissists thrive in relationships marked by chaos, insecurity, and uncertainty. They seek to maintain control over others by keeping them on edge, always questioning their place and their worth. Triangulation serves as a powerful tool in this endeavor, creating a dynamic where the narcissist can manipulate the emotions and perceptions of multiple people at once. Triangulation often begins when the narcissist feels that their control over a primary relationship is weakening. This could happen for a number of reasons. Perhaps the victim begins to question the narcissist's behavior, or maybe the victim's boundaries are starting to be respected. The narcissist, sensing their grip loosening, will initiate triangulation to stir up conflict and reassert their power. They may introduce a third party, someone they know will spark jealousy or insecurity in their victim. This third party could be a friend, family member, colleague, or even a new romantic partner. The narcissist's goal is not necessarily to create a genuine bond with the third party, but rather to manipulate the victim by causing emotional turmoil and tension. The narcissist will often frame the third party as a competitor for their attention or affection, whether or not this is actually true. For example, if the narcissist is in a romantic relationship with their victim, they might flirt with someone else in front of them, implying that they are being tempted or drawn toward someone else. They may casually mention how this third party is so much more understanding, attractive, or talented than the victim. The narcissist might even plant seeds of doubt in the victim's mind by saying things like, "I'm so glad that person listens to me," or "It's amazing how much they care about me." These comments are not made out of genuine admiration for the third party, but are designed to provoke feelings of inadequacy and jealousy in the victim. The narcissist's aim is to make the victim feel that they are no longer enough. In doing so, they create an emotional vacuum that can only be filled by the narcissist's approval and attention. The victim becomes trapped in a cycle of insecurity, constantly vying for the narcissist's favor while simultaneously feeling threatened by the presence of the third party. The victim's emotional state is intentionally destabilized, as they are caught in a tug-of-war between their own self-worth and the narcissist's need for validation. One of the most damaging aspects of triangulation is that it creates emotional confusion. The victim is never quite sure where they stand with the narcissist. One moment, the narcissist may shower them with attention and affection, making them feel loved and important. The next moment, they may be cold and distant, leaving the victim to wonder what went wrong. The third party is often used as a tool to keep the victim guessing. The narcissist may send mixed signals, making the victim question whether they are being paranoid or whether there is truly something going on behind their back. The more the victim doubts their own perceptions, the more control the narcissist gains. The narcissist is able to pull the strings from behind the scenes, creating an atmosphere of constant drama and uncertainty. Triangulation also fosters a sense of competition that is not only unhealthy, but also entirely unnecessary. The narcissist enjoys watching their victims struggle to measure up to an idealized version of themselves or the third party. This competition can extend to every area of life: looks, intelligence, success, or even personal qualities such as kindness or generosity. The narcissist will pit the victim against the third party, forcing them into a position where they feel as though they are constantly falling short. In some cases, the narcissist may even create a false narrative in which the victim believes that they are being replaced by the third party, leading to a sense of abandonment and further self-doubt. The victim becomes consumed by trying to win the narcissist's favor, all the while being played as a pawn in the narcissist's game. The emotional fallout from triangulation can be profound. Victims often experience feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, anxiety, and resentment. They may feel like they are constantly walking on eggshells, unsure of how to act or what to say around the narcissist. Every word and action is scrutinized, as the victim becomes hyper-aware of how they might be perceived by both the narcissist and the third party. This emotional rollercoaster takes a toll on the victim's mental and physical health, leading to stress, exhaustion, and a decline in self-esteem. Another tactic that narcissists often use within the triangulation process is the playing of the victim. They may tell the third party that the victim is insecure, jealous, or unreasonable, painting themselves as the long-suffering, misunderstood partner. This allows the narcissist to gain sympathy and support from the third party, further reinforcing their sense of control. By doing this, the narcissist places themselves in a position of power, as they are seen as the innocent party in the situation, while the victim is demonized and vilified. As the triangulation intensifies, the victim may feel emotionally isolated from others. The narcissist's ability to manipulate their perceptions of reality often leaves the victim with no one to turn to for support. The victim may even begin to question their own sanity, as the narcissist's manipulations blur the lines between reality and fantasy. The more the victim tries to confront the narcissist or defend themselves, the more they are met with resistance and deflection. The narcissist may accuse the victim of being paranoid or irrational, further cementing their control over the victim's emotional state. To counteract triangulation, it is essential for the victim to recognize the behavior for what it is: a deliberate attempt to create division, confusion, and emotional chaos. The first step in neutralizing triangulation is to maintain strong personal boundaries. The victim must learn to disengage emotionally from the narcissist's manipulations and not allow themselves to be drawn into the drama. They should avoid discussing the third party with the narcissist or engaging in any behavior that feeds into the competition. It is important to stay grounded in one's own sense of self-worth and not let the narcissist dictate how they feel about themselves. Another strategy is to limit exposure to the narcissist and their manipulative tactics. If possible, the victim should distance themselves from the narcissist and reduce the amount of time spent in their presence. This helps to break the cycle of triangulation and allows the victim to regain control over their emotional responses. Seeking support from trusted friends, family, or a therapist can also provide a safe space for the victim to process their feelings and gain perspective on the situation. Finally, it is crucial for the victim to focus on self-care. Engaging in activities that foster self-love and self-compassion can help counteract the emotional toll of triangulation. Building a strong support network of individuals who are not manipulated by the narcissist's tactics can also provide the victim with a sense of safety and validation. Over time, the victim can rebuild their self-esteem and confidence, learning to trust their instincts and maintain healthy boundaries in all relationships. Triangulation is a powerful tool that narcissists use to maintain control over their victims. It creates emotional chaos, fosters jealousy and insecurity, and keeps the victim in a constant state of uncertainty. However, with awareness and the right strategies, it is possible to neutralize triangulation and regain control of one's emotional health. By recognizing the tactics at play, setting clear boundaries and seeking support, the victim can break free from the narcissist's web of manipulation and begin to heal. Chapter 8: Narcissistic Rage, the Explosion of Anger and Retaliation. Narcissistic rage is a volatile and explosive reaction to perceived criticism, threats, or challenges to the narcissist's ego. It represents a key characteristic of the narcissistic personality disorder, an emotional response that is far out of proportion to the triggering event, and often serves to intimidate, punish, or control others. Understanding narcissistic rage is essential for those who have had the unfortunate experience of being involved with a narcissist, as it can cause significant emotional and psychological harm. The purpose of this chapter is to help readers recognize the warning signs of narcissistic rage, understand what triggers it, and learn strategies for staying calm, safe, and protected when faced with an outburst. At its core, narcissistic rage is rooted in the fragile self-esteem of the narcissist. Beneath the surface of grandiosity, arrogance, and an inflated sense of self-worth, the narcissist harbors deep insecurities and an overwhelming need for validation. Their sense of self is built on the admiration, attention, and adoration of others, and when this supply is threatened, their world unravels. They cannot tolerate being challenged or criticized, as it shatters the illusion they have created for themselves. In moments when their carefully constructed facade is exposed, they experience narcissistic injury, an emotional wound that they cannot bear to acknowledge. The trigger for narcissistic rage can be something as minor as a perceived slight or an innocent remark that the narcissist interprets as a personal attack. The narcissist's reaction is often immediate and disproportionate, escalating quickly from a sense of offense to an explosive outburst. This rage is typically aimed at the person who has challenged the narcissist's authority or self-image, and the victim is often left bewildered by the intensity of the reaction. The narcissist's rage may be directed outward, in the form of verbal abuse, physical intimidation, or even outright violence, or it may be turned inward, leading to self-destructive behaviors or an internalized rage that they cannot express. One of the most disturbing aspects of narcissistic rage is its unpredictability. Because narcissists are unable to regulate their emotions in a healthy way, their reactions to perceived threats can be erratic and extreme. What might seem like a harmless comment or disagreement to someone else can set off a fury in a narcissist that feels like an emotional hurricane. This volatility creates a toxic environment for anyone who is involved with the narcissist, as it becomes impossible to anticipate when the next eruption will occur. Victims of narcissistic rage often feel like they are walking on eggshells, constantly fearful that they will say or do something that will trigger another outburst. The narcissist's response to criticism is often one of intense defensiveness. They cannot tolerate any indication that they are anything less than perfect, and when their flaws or failures are pointed out, they feel an overwhelming sense of shame and humiliation. This shame quickly turns into anger, and the narcissist may lash out at the person they perceive as the source of the threat. The person who is targeted in this moment of rage may be subjected to a barrage of insults, demeaning comments, and even physical aggression. Narcissists are skilled at using projection, accusing others of the very behaviors they themselves engage in. For example, they may call the victim selfish or insecure, while failing to acknowledge their own narcissistic tendencies. The goal of the narcissistic rage is not only to punish, but also to displace the narcissist's shame, and avoid taking responsibility for their actions. The narcissist may use rage as a tool of control in relationships. When they feel they are losing power or influence over someone, they can trigger a rage episode to intimidate and reassert dominance. The victim, who may have experienced the narcissist's rage before, may try to appease or placate them in order to avoid further outbursts. In these moments, the narcissist is able to re-establish control by ensuring that their victim feels powerless and fearful. The rage serves as a form of manipulation, reinforcing the narcissist's position of authority and ensuring that the victim remains compliant. In some cases, the narcissist may even use a period of silence or withdrawal following an outburst, a tactic known as the silent treatment, to further punish the victim and regain control. The narcissist's need for retaliation often arises after a perceived narcissistic injury, which occurs when their ego is threatened in some way. This could happen if someone questions their decisions, challenges their authority, or withholds the admiration they so desperately crave. Narcissists, see themselves as above reproach, and any attempt to deflate their inflated sense of superiority is experienced as a profound insult. To retaliate, the narcissist may escalate the situation, turning a minor disagreement into an all-consuming battle. The rage becomes an attempt to reassert their power and regain the status they feel they have lost. It is not about the issue at hand. It is about the narcissist's need to be seen as flawless and untouchable. Understanding the nature of narcissistic rage is critical for anyone who is trying to navigate a relationship with a narcissist. The first step in protecting oneself is to recognize the signs of a narcissistic outburst before it escalates. Often, narcissistic rage is preceded by subtle shifts in behavior. The narcissist may become unusually quiet or distant, signaling that they are stewing over something that has triggered their sense of pride. They may display physical signs of agitation, such as clenched fists, a tense posture, or rapid breathing. If these warning signs are noticed early, it may be possible to de-escalate the situation before it spirals into a full-blown rage. However, it is important to note that narcissists are extremely skilled at hiding their true emotions, and the outburst may come without warning, leaving the victim unprepared. If a narcissistic rage episode does occur, it is essential for the victim to stay calm and resist the urge to engage in a power struggle. Narcissists thrive on drama and conflict, and by engaging in the rage, the victim only fuels the narcissist's desire to maintain control. The best approach is to remain as emotionally neutral as possible, avoiding confrontation or defensiveness. This can be incredibly difficult, as the victim may feel personally attacked and insulted, but it is important to remember that the narcissist's anger is not truly about the victim. It is about the narcissist's fragile ego. In some cases, physical safety may be a concern during a narcissistic rage episode. If the situation becomes physically threatening, the victim must prioritize their safety and remove themselves from the situation as quickly as possible. This may involve leaving the area, calling for help, or seeking shelter in a safe place. Narcissists may attempt to follow, harass, or intimidate their victim, but it is crucial to remain firm in maintaining boundaries and seeking support from friends, family, or professionals. Victims of narcissistic rage should never hesitate to reach out for help, as this is a serious form of emotional and psychological abuse. Another strategy for coping with narcissistic rage is to set clear and firm boundaries with the narcissist. This involves calmly and assertively communicating that certain behaviors are unacceptable, and that the victim will not tolerate being verbally or physically abused. Boundaries can help protect the victim's emotional well-being, and may prevent future outbursts by making it clear that the narcissist's behavior will not be tolerated. However, it is important to recognize that narcissists often see boundaries as a challenge to their authority and may escalate their behavior in response. Therefore, it is essential to be prepared for the possibility of a retaliatory outburst when boundaries are enforced. Finally, healing from the emotional damage caused by narcissistic rage requires time, support, and self-compassion. The victim may need to work through the trauma of the narcissist's outbursts with a therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse. This therapeutic process can help the victim rebuild their sense of self-worth and develop the emotional resilience necessary to navigate future interactions with the narcissist, if any. Healing also involves reconnecting with personal values and rediscovering a sense of purpose outside of the narcissistic relationship. Narcissistic rage is a powerful tool of manipulation and control, used by narcissists to maintain their sense of superiority and dominance. Understanding how rage is triggered, how it manifests, and how to protect oneself is essential for anyone who has been subjected to this form of abuse. By recognizing the signs, staying calm, and setting firm boundaries, the victim can begin to regain control over their life and protect their emotional well-being from the destructive effects of narcissistic rage. Chapter 9: Hoovering: How Narcissists Lure You Back into Their Trap. One of the most insidious and deceptive tactics employed by narcissists is the strategy of hoovering, named after the popular vacuum cleaner brand, as it symbolizes the narcissist's attempt to suck their victims back into the toxic relationship. Hoovering occurs after the narcissist has discarded their victim, often leaving them emotionally shattered and confused. It is a calculated effort to regain control, reassert dominance, and maintain the narcissistic supply that they can no longer obtain from the victim once they have been discarded. The narcissist's objective is not necessarily to rekindle the relationship or offer genuine love, but to re-establish a sense of power and control over the victim, ensuring that they remain a source of emotional fuel for the narcissist's fragile ego. Understanding hoovering is essential for anyone who has experienced a relationship with a narcissist, as the manipulation involved can be intense, confusing, and difficult to resist. During hoovering, the narcissist will often exploit the victim's vulnerabilities, making it seem as though they have changed or that they can offer something different this time. For the victim, hoovering is often a delicate dance between the pain of the past and the hope for a better future. It is a psychological trap that aims to lure the victim back into the narcissist's orbit, where they can be controlled and exploited once again. In this chapter, we will explore the various methods of hoovering, the emotional impact it has on the victim, and provide practical guidance for how to resist hoovering attempts and maintain distance from the narcissist. The first step in understanding hoovering is recognizing that it is a manipulation tactic. After a period of discard, the narcissist may begin to feel the loss of their primary source of narcissistic supply, the attention, admiration, or validation that they crave from their victim. While the victim may feel abandoned and hurt, the narcissist's motivations are far different. They do not care about the emotional pain they have caused. Instead, their focus is on restoring their damaged ego. When the narcissist feels that they no longer have the power to control the victim, they begin to devise ways to reel them back in. This may occur days, weeks, or even months after the victim has been discarded, and it can be incredibly confusing for the victim, as it feels like the emotional roller coaster of the relationship has started once again. The narcissist uses emotional manipulation to induce feelings of guilt, remorse, or longing in the victim. One of the most common methods of hoovering is through guilt tripping, where the narcissist will make the victim feel responsible for the breakup or their current emotional state. They may use phrases like, "I've been so lonely without you, you ruined everything," or "How could you leave me when I needed you the most?" These statements aim to evoke a sense of obligation in the victim, compelling them to return to the narcissist to make things right or to fulfill the narcissist's emotional needs. The narcissist is skilled at playing on the victim's empathy, making them feel like they are abandoning someone who is helpless or dependent on them. The victim may feel an overwhelming sense of duty or guilt for the narcissist's well-being, believing that returning to the relationship will somehow ease their pain or fix the damage that has been done. Another common hoovering tactic is promises of change. The narcissist, fully aware of the issues that led to the breakup in the first place, may tell the victim that they have changed, or that they are willing to change for the sake of the relationship. They may offer to seek therapy, become more understanding, or be a better partner. These promises are often superficial, and made only to lure the victim back in. The narcissist may sound convincing, making it seem as though they are genuinely willing to alter their behavior, but the reality is that this change is rarely permanent. Narcissists are incapable of true self-reflection or genuine growth because they lack the emotional depth and accountability required to change their patterns of behavior. The promise of change serves only to reassure the victim, rekindling their hope that the relationship could be different this time. However, these promises are rarely fulfilled, and when the victim returns to the relationship, they are once again subjected to the same toxic dynamics. Love bombing is another hoovering tactic that narcissists often use. After the discard, the narcissist may suddenly flood the victim with affection, compliments, and gestures of love, in an attempt to recreate the initial idealization phase of the relationship. They may call, text, or send gifts, proclaiming how much they miss the victim and how they are incomplete without them. The narcissist may remind the victim of the good times they shared and the intense connection they once had. This emotional rollercoaster can be very difficult to resist, as the victim may long for the love and attention they experienced during the early stages of the relationship. Love bombing creates a false sense of security and intimacy, making the victim believe that the narcissist is sincere and that their love is unconditional. It is a dangerous cycle of emotional highs and lows, where the victim is constantly oscillating between hope and disappointment. In some cases, the narcissist may use hoovering through third parties. This can involve manipulating friends, family members, or even mutual acquaintances into reaching out to the victim on their behalf. The narcissist may claim to be heartbroken, distressed, or genuinely remorseful, and ask these individuals to convince the victim to come back to them. This tactic further isolates the victim, making them feel guilty for not responding to the narcissist's cries for help, or making them feel as though they are rejecting the people who care about them. By enlisting others to assist in their hoovering attempts, the narcissist amplifies the pressure on the victim to return to the relationship, creating a sense of social or familial obligation that the victim may struggle to ignore. The hoovering attempt can also take a more subtle form, where the narcissist will begin to manipulate circumstances or take advantage of moments when the victim is most vulnerable. For example, they may reach out during a difficult period in the victim's life, such as after a breakup, a loss, or a time of personal crisis. They may appear as the knight in shining armor, offering support and compassion at a time when the victim is most in need. The narcissist may remind the victim of their past connection, and use the victim's emotional vulnerability to their advantage. The victim may find themselves thinking, maybe they were right about us, or maybe this time things will be different, which makes them more susceptible to falling into the trap once again. Resisting hoovering attempts can be extremely difficult, especially if the victim is emotionally attached or still processing the trauma of the narcissistic relationship. However, it is crucial to recognize that hoovering is a manipulative tactic, not an indication that the narcissist has changed or that the relationship can be repaired. Here are some strategies that can help the victim resist hoovering and maintain distance from the narcissist. Set firm boundaries. One of the most effective ways to resist hoovering is to establish clear boundaries with the narcissist. This may mean blocking their phone number, refusing to engage in any communication, and telling them firmly that the relationship is over. It is essential to stick to these boundaries, no matter how tempting it may be to respond to the narcissist's advances. Boundaries help protect the victim's emotional well-being and ensure that they do not get pulled back into the toxic cycle. Don't engage emotionally. The narcissist will often try to provoke an emotional response to draw the victim back in. Whether through guilt, anger, or promises of change, the narcissist wants to trigger a reaction that will give them the emotional control they seek. It is important not to react to the narcissist's attempts, even if they feel overwhelming. Remaining emotionally neutral or disengaged is key to maintaining distance and protecting oneself from further manipulation. Seek support. Resisting hoovering can be especially challenging if the victim feels isolated or emotionally vulnerable. Reaching out to trusted friends, family, or a therapist can provide the support and encouragement needed to stay strong in the face of hoovering attempts. These individuals can remind the victim of the abusive behavior they experienced and help reinforce the decision to stay away from the narcissist. Focus on self-care and healing. Taking time to heal from the emotional trauma of the narcissistic relationship is essential for maintaining the strength to resist hoovering. Engaging in activities that promote self-care, such as exercise, meditation, and hobbies, can help rebuild confidence and provide a sense of empowerment. The more the victim focuses on their own well-being and personal growth, the less likely they are to fall prey to the narcissist's manipulative tactics. Remember the reality of the relationship. It is important to stay grounded in the truth about the relationship and the narcissist's behavior. Reflect on the manipulation, abuse, and toxicity that defined the relationship, and remind yourself of why it ended. Rewriting the narrative of the relationship and acknowledging the harm caused by the narcissist can help the victim resist the emotional pull of the hoovering attempts and keep them focused on their path toward healing. In conclusion, hoovering is a powerful and deceptive tactic used by narcissists to regain control over their victims and lure them back into the toxic relationship. It can take many forms, from guilt-tripping and love-bombing to the use of third parties and emotional manipulation. Recognizing hoovering for what it is and employing strategies to resist it is crucial for anyone who has been in a relationship with a narcissist. By setting firm boundaries, seeking support, and focusing on healing, the victim can regain control of their life and move forward, free from the narcissist's toxic influence. Chapter 10: Breaking Free: How to Protect Yourself and Reclaim Your Power. Breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is one of the most difficult and empowering things you can do for yourself. It requires immense strength, courage, and a commitment to reclaiming your life. Narcissistic abuse can erode your sense of self, leaving you questioning your worth, your perceptions, and your ability to trust yourself. The process of healing and moving forward can feel overwhelming at times, but it is absolutely possible to regain control over your life and create a future where you are free from manipulation, control, and emotional harm. In this chapter, we will discuss actionable steps to help you break free from a narcissistic relationship, protect yourself, and reclaim your power. These steps include setting firm boundaries, seeking support, rebuilding your self-esteem, implementing no contact, and empowering yourself for personal growth and healing. The first critical step in breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is setting clear and firm boundaries. Boundaries are the emotional, psychological, and physical limits you place on others to protect your well-being. In a narcissistic relationship, the narcissist continuously violates these boundaries, whether by overstepping personal space, manipulating your emotions, or demanding more than you can give. As a result, learning how to set healthy boundaries is essential to protecting yourself from future manipulation and emotional harm. Boundaries are not about control, rather they are about asserting your needs and ensuring that you are treated with respect and dignity. When you decide to break free, you will need to communicate your boundaries clearly to the narcissist, even if it feels uncomfortable. This can be a challenging task, as narcissists tend to resist boundaries and react aggressively when they are not able to control the situation. However, being firm and unyielding in your boundaries is vital. Your boundaries might include things like no longer accepting emotional manipulation, refusing to tolerate any form of abuse, and limiting or cutting off communication with the narcissist. While the narcissist may try to push these boundaries, it's essential to stay strong and consistent in your decision to protect yourself. Establishing boundaries may also require a shift in how you view your relationship with the narcissist. You need to recognize that their behavior is abusive, and you are no longer willing to accept the harm they inflict on you. Once you've set your boundaries, the next crucial step in breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is seeking support. Narcissists are often adept at isolating their victims, making them feel alone, unsupported, and trapped. This isolation can make it even more challenging to leave the relationship, as the narcissist may convince you that no one else cares, or that you cannot survive without them. Seeking support from others is essential for both your emotional and mental well-being during this time. Support can come in many forms, including trusted friends, family members, therapists, or support groups. Finding people who understand your experience and who can offer empathy and encouragement will help you feel less isolated and more empowered. Sometimes this support might mean severing ties with people who are still loyal to the narcissist, or who may not fully understand the extent of the abuse you've experienced. This can be painful, but it's necessary to surround yourself with individuals who have your best interests at heart, and who will encourage you to continue on your healing journey. If you find it difficult to talk about the abuse, or if you are uncertain about whether you are truly experiencing narcissistic abuse, seeking therapy can be incredibly helpful. A therapist who specializes in narcissistic abuse can help you process your emotions, validate your experiences, and provide you with coping strategies for managing the emotional aftermath of the relationship. Therapy can also help you rebuild your sense of self-worth, regain trust in your perceptions, and give you the tools you need to navigate life after the relationship. Support groups, whether in person or online, can also be an invaluable resource. Being around others who have gone through similar experiences can provide a sense of belonging and shared understanding. One of the most important tools you can use to break free from a narcissistic relationship is implementing no contact. No contact refers to the complete cessation of all communication with the narcissist. This is often the most effective way to protect yourself from further manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse. While it can be difficult, especially if you still feel emotionally attached to the narcissist, or if they continue to contact you after the breakup, no contact is the most powerful tool you have for reclaiming your power and healing from the abuse. When you implement no contact, you create physical and emotional distance between yourself and the narcissist. This prevents them from continuing to influence your emotions, distort your reality, and disrupt your healing process. No contact can also help you regain control over your life and stop the narcissist from continuing their pattern of emotional abuse. However, the decision to go no contact requires commitment and strength. It may involve blocking phone numbers, social media accounts, and email addresses, and avoiding places or situations where you may run into the narcissist. If you share children or mutual responsibilities with the narcissist, you may need to set up strict boundaries around communication, using a third-party or co-parenting app to minimize direct contact. Going no contact is especially important because it gives you the space you need to heal. In narcissistic relationships, victims often experience a constant roller coaster of emotions, from idealization to devaluation, and from love bombing to rage. This chaos can leave the victim emotionally drained and mentally exhausted. Taking time away from the narcissist allows you to recalibrate, focus on your needs, and begin to heal from the emotional trauma that has been inflicted on you. During this time, you may need to distance yourself from social situations that remind you of the narcissist, give yourself permission to grieve the loss of the relationship, and invest in your own self-care. Rebuilding your self-esteem is a crucial part of the healing process after leaving a narcissistic relationship. Narcissists often make their victims feel worthless, unlovable, or inadequate. They do this by exploiting the victim's insecurities and systematically undermining their confidence. When you leave a narcissistic relationship, you may feel like you've lost your sense of identity, and rebuilding your self-worth will take time and patience. However, it is absolutely possible to reclaim your self-esteem and regain a sense of personal power. To rebuild your self-esteem, start by focusing on self-compassion. Be kind to yourself and recognize that the abuse you endured was not your fault. You were manipulated, and the narcissist's behavior was a reflection of their own issues, not yours. You may need to challenge negative self-beliefs that were ingrained during the relationship, such as, "I'm not good enough" or "I'm unworthy of love." Replacing these negative thoughts with positive affirmations and self-empowerment can help you reframe your perception of yourself. Surrounding yourself with positive influences, whether it's people who lift you up or activities that make you feel good about yourself, can also help you build a strong foundation of self-worth. As you heal and regain your sense of self, it's important to focus on personal growth. Breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is not just about escaping the toxicity of the relationship. It's also about using the experience to learn, grow, and become a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Take time to rediscover what you love, what excites you, and what brings you joy. Engage in activities that nourish your mind, body, and soul. Pursue your passions and goals, and remember that your life is not defined by your past relationship, but by the actions you take to shape your future. Personal growth is about reclaiming your autonomy, embracing your strengths, and developing a deep sense of self-worth that cannot be shaken by the actions of others. Finally, breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is not just about leaving the relationship itself, it's also about preventing future narcissistic encounters. This means becoming more self-aware and learning to recognize the signs of narcissistic behavior early on. It's important to trust your instincts and not ignore red flags, even if they seem small at first. Educate yourself on narcissistic behavior so you can protect yourself in the future. Practice setting boundaries early in relationships, and be cautious about getting too involved with people who exhibit controlling or manipulative tendencies. In conclusion, breaking free from a narcissistic relationship is a journey that requires strength, resilience, and commitment to healing. It involves setting boundaries, seeking support, implementing no contact, rebuilding self-esteem, and engaging in personal growth. The road to reclaiming your power and freedom may not always be easy, but it is an essential part of your journey toward a healthier, more fulfilling life. By taking these steps and empowering yourself, you can move beyond the trauma of the past and create a future that is free from the control and manipulation of narcissistic abuse. You are deserving of love, respect, and happiness, and with each step you take toward healing, you are reclaiming the power that was always yours to begin with. Conclusion: empowerment and moving forward. As you near the end of this journey through the narcissist's playbook, it's essential to reflect on the tactics and behaviors that narcissists use to manipulate, control, and undermine their victims. By now, you have likely gained a clearer understanding of the strategies narcissists employ, from love bombing, gaslighting, and devaluation to the discard phase and hoovering. These tactics are designed to keep you entangled in their web, manipulating your emotions, perceptions, and sense of self in ways that often leave you confused, insecure, and emotionally drained. Recognizing these patterns is the first and most important step in protecting yourself from narcissistic abuse. When you can identify these behaviors early on, you can take proactive steps to shield yourself from the toxic influence of a narcissist. It's important to understand that narcissists rarely change. Their manipulation is often calculated, driven by an unrelenting need for validation, control, and power. They do not view relationships as partnerships, but rather as a means to satisfy their own ego. Once you recognize these destructive patterns, you are better equipped to safeguard your emotional well-being and reclaim your sense of self. The journey toward healing from narcissistic abuse is deeply personal and often painful, but it is also profoundly empowering. The process requires you to trust yourself again, even if your trust has been shattered by the narcissist's deceitful actions. Narcissists are skilled at undermining your confidence, questioning your reality, and convincing you that your feelings and needs are irrelevant. However, through understanding their tactics, you can begin to reclaim your personal power. You are not the person the narcissist made you believe you were. You are strong, capable, and deserving of love and respect. As you continue to heal, it is essential to rebuild your self-esteem and restore your sense of identity. Remember that you are not defined by the abuse you've endured. You are defined by your resilience, your ability to overcome, and your willingness to grow and thrive. The scars of narcissistic abuse may take time to heal, but with each step forward, you are reclaiming the life and future that was rightfully yours all along. For those still in the process of healing, take heart. The emotional toll of narcissistic abuse can feel unbearable at times, but it is possible to move beyond the pain. It may take time, and that's okay. Allow yourself the grace to heal at your own pace. Healing doesn't mean forgetting or excusing the abuse. It means learning to live beyond it, finding peace, and regaining the strength to live a life free from manipulation. Surround yourself with supportive people who understand your journey, seek professional help when needed, and practice self-compassion. Healing is not linear, and there will be moments of progress and setbacks, but each step you take brings you closer to a brighter, healthier future. An important part of the healing process is establishing a renewed sense of empowerment. Narcissistic abuse can strip you of your autonomy, leaving you feeling like you have no control over your life. However, as you begin to recognize the signs of manipulation and the tactics narcissists use to exploit your vulnerabilities, you start to regain that control. Empowerment comes from knowing that you are not powerless. You have the strength to say no when something feels wrong, to set boundaries that protect your well-being, and to trust yourself and your instincts. The more you embrace your power, the less vulnerable you become to future manipulation. One of the most empowering things you can do moving forward is to protect yourself from falling into future relationships with narcissists. Understanding the narcissist's playbook means you will no longer be blind to their manipulations. You will recognize the warning signs early on, whether it's excessive charm, love bombing, or controlling behaviors. You will be able to set healthy boundaries, spot red flags, and walk away before you fall victim to the cycle of idealization and devaluation. This knowledge empowers you to build healthier relationships, starting with the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. As you continue on your journey toward emotional well-being, remember that understanding the narcissist's playbook is just the beginning. Knowledge is power, and the awareness you've gained throughout this book will serve as a foundation for your healing and protection. You are now equipped to recognize narcissistic behavior, defend yourself against manipulation, and take control of your future. Your experiences with narcissistic abuse do not define you, but your resilience and determination to heal will. There will be times when the pain resurfaces, and it may feel like progress is slow. This is normal. But take comfort in knowing that you have already taken the hardest steps. You have learned to see the manipulation for what it is, and you have taken the first crucial steps toward breaking free. As you move forward, remember that healing is a process, not a destination. Each day you are becoming more whole, more self-aware, and more empowered. Finally, remember that there is hope. No matter how deep the wounds of narcissistic abuse may feel, there is a brighter future waiting for you. With each step you take toward reclaiming your life, you are building a future where you are free from the shadows of manipulation and control. You deserve happiness, peace, and genuine love, things that narcissists are incapable of offering. The love and respect you seek will come from within yourself first, and that is where true healing begins. In conclusion, breaking free from the cycle of narcissistic abuse is not easy, but it is possible. Recognizing the narcissist's tactics, trusting yourself, and taking the necessary steps to reclaim your power are all key to your journey of healing. As you continue to move forward, always remember that you are stronger than you realize, and you are worthy of a life free from manipulation, deceit, and emotional harm. The Narcissist's playbook may have once controlled your life, but now it is time for you to take control. Your future is yours to shape, and the possibilities are limitless. Thank you for reading this book. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review. Margaret Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that the ideas and perspectives presented are generated by AI and should not be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.